two-dimensional. Let's play podcast. So, remember in the Wrath of Khan, was it, that Spock immortally told Kirk that Khan was exhibiting two-dimensional thinking. Remember, Khan would go left, he would go right in his starship. Forgive me if I'm a little vague on these details. It's been a few, But so Kirk immortally goes down. He exercises his right to use the third dimension. Well, that's a little like what mankind through the millennia has viewed the stars as a two-dimensional firmament, right? We have not thought of the stars as 3D, as two adjacent stars might in fact be vast differences of distance apart. And that's effect, of course, on the perceived brightness, the absolute magnitude. But we, in culture, when we refer to the stars, and when we're talking about the physical things that we see, and not, we're not interpreting astrology type things, we view them as two-dimensional. It's almost like we're going back to the earlier view of the heavens, isn't it? When I cannot think of the name now, but I've got a recent series of science fiction short stories given to me by my son. And in one of those, they are building a modern-day Tower of Babel, and they are building it up to the ceiling of the world, basically. And to get to this ceiling, which is a hard level, and they are intending to drill through it, but they're afraid. They know that there have been floods released and rains released in the past, eons. They figure that water has to be stored up beyond that ceiling somewhere in giant reservoirs, and to get to the ceiling, the top of the universe, if you will, in this, earlier view of the cosmos, they have to pass through the part of the paths of the stars to get there. In fact, the tower, a star actually in its revolutions many, many centuries before had run into the tower, and nobody talked about that much. But so the stars were two-dimensional throughout history, and that's why, of course, we think we see figures, right? Constellations. So down throughout history, right up to the songs we sing today, we view them as that two-dimensional construct, a belt, if you will, the surface of a star ball in a planetarium, if you will. Whether it be lensed or just pinholes, it's still a barrier where the stars dwell. So that's just an interesting facet of our long history with talking to the stars, with, turning them into humans, following them, wishing upon them, all the categories we've already identified. And we, again, culture, this is harder, but our culture mechanisms themselves go through perhaps life cycles where we have adventuresome phases, and then we have complacent phases and comebacks and white jumpsuit phases. We've talked about that a little bit, how you could apply cycles to music, musical groups. You could apply it to our own planetarium or amateur astronomer hobbies or any other pursuit. Our careers, obviously, all go through these life cycles, as do the stars. So I'm going to start, repeating myself a little bit and trying to expand this whole concept of the stars and culture as I'm in the baby beginning steps of imagining what a book might look like. So that's an important realization that just happened the other day. We view the stars as two-dimensional. We no different than my sister's old campfire girl vest where she had the different colored beads sewed on, or any other representation in two dimensions of the heavens, just like Flatland. I'm Gary Lesnick.